Tucked away in the cloud-covered mountains in Ecuador's El Oro province is one of the largest undeveloped gold deposits in the Americas. At 21 million ounces, Lumina Gold's Cangrejos and Gran Bestia deposits stand out for their gold endowment, and with a large copper kicker of £2.7 billion and a feasibility study about to get underway, the Ross Beatty-backed company is closing in on its endgame. One company which is already comfortable with the project is Wheaton Precious Metals, which in May 2023 agreed to provide $300 million under a streaming agreement and valuable third-party validation for Lumina. Cangrejos is the largest primary gold deposit in Ecuador and the 26th largest in the world, and the time may very well be right for the project to be developed. Ecuador is experiencing something of a mining boom. In 2019, 2 mines came into production: Ecuadoriente's Mirador Copper Project and Lundin Gold's Fruta del Norte project. Together, these mines have taken Ecuador's mining exports from about $300 million in 2018 to more than $2.2 billion in 2022. The government forecasts that with this project and others, by 2029, mining exports could top $9 billion. We are here on the ground to find out more from the head of exploration, the country manager, and other key team members. I'm here with Andy Carstensen, Chief Geologist of Lumina Gold. Andy, where are we?
We're on an overview of the Cangrejos and Gran Bestia copper gold porphyry deposits. Cangrejos sits down in the valley below us here, and Gran Bestia sits, there's the skyline ridge there. The ridge on the backside to the west and down towards us to about where we can see, that's the Gran Bestia deposit.
So that's where the money is, and that's quite a scale, is it? It's quite a size, a couple of 2 or 3 kilometres?
2 kilometres across at this point.
What's going on here geologically, Andy?
The Cangrejos copper gold porphyry system is indeed that. It's a porphyry system intruding into Cretaceous age batholith, equigranular, sometimes foliated, quartz diorite intrusive. Later, subsequent to that, we had Miocene age porphyries intruding it, multiple events. Early on, there's just an enormous amount of brecciation created, probably from another porphyry at depth, which we have not yet seen. Later, subsequent to that, there's potassic alteration and then intrusion of these younger Miocene porphyries. They bring in a lot of calc-sodic alteration, multiple events of such which have mineralized, remobilized, and remineralized again in these 2 deposits.
You have 21 million ounces of gold and 2.7 billion pounds of copper here. What makes this such a rich deposit? Why is it so special?
2 things. Its location. We're right on the coastal plain in southwest Ecuador. We have a deep sea port 40 kilometers away. There's paved highways. Pan American Highway is right below us. We have grid power. And it's just the location. And then geologically, it's that we have this massive breccia system, which we haven't found the margins of in several areas, probably related to a porphyry, as they say, and then the younger porphyries coming in and mineralizing.
You've got a very big geochemical anomaly here, and that's coincidence with a very big VTEM geophysical anomaly, isn't that right?
Yeah, so it's phenomenal. In my career, I don't think I've ever seen better correlation between geochemistry and geophysics. Conductive rocks flank the entire it's a 4 kilometer diameter soil anomaly at better than a quarter gram. And it's beautifully circled by conductive rocks. We flew a ZTEM survey in 2020 and identified this. And it's important because the systems as we know them now, they're beautifully zoned. The sulfide mineralogy in these deposits is beautifully zoned. You have pure-type pyrite, which is what's giving us a conductive nature in the geophysics. Inside of that, we start picking up chalcopyrite. When you start seeing chalcopyrite, you've got gold. And then we go from chalcopyrite, and in the core is chalcopyrite bornite. And when we have that association, we have very high grades of gold, multi-gram over hundreds of meters sort of intersections. Below that, we're seeing a magnetite zone developing, but we have very limited information. We have 3 holes that have hit it, but they've always been spectacular grade. So there's potential at Cangrejos at depth. At Gran Bestia, we see more pyrrhotite preserved. So we think that Gran Bestia is down-dropped across a fault in relation to the erosional level of Cangrejos. We see the pyrrhotite. We see all of the zonation patterns at Gran Bestia, but we haven't found a single grain of bornite at this point. So we're still high. So there's a lot of potential at Gran Bestia still at depth, and as well as laterally, the deposits. Cangrejos is open to the west, and these somewhat lower grades drilled there. But at depth, these magnetite zones are very, very interesting, but it's probably a target for the future. When there's a pit, you can explore from the pit.
21 million ounces, that's potentially just the start. You were talking about geochemical anomalies 500 meters to the west of Gran Bestia, and you've had some drill holes towards that would indicate that the brecciation continues in that direction.
Correct. Gran Bestia is open completely to the west, and to the northwest, and to the east. To the east, we run into a fairly large mountain there, so that direction is sort of pinned off because of topography. But north, northwest, and west, it's completely open. The anomaly you're talking about is related to an old mine over there, mine tourmaline breccias, called Tocotalomo. And the soil anomaly at Tocotalomo is sort of curved, such as this, and the edge of the Gran Bestia thing is curved as well, 500 meters away. One drill hole from the edge of Gran Bestia drilled towards that anomaly, cut, I believe it was close to 400 meters of 0.4 grams and 0.08 copper, I believe, leaving it open. It wasn't the greatest grade hole, but it was one hole, and you've got all this ground out there. So I think they'll deposit open there. But at the Cangrejos, west of Cangrejos, this geophysical anomaly, the coincident soil anomaly, 60% of that anomaly has never been explored. Along that margin, we have the conductive rocks and the geochem anomaly. There have been select rocks collected 4 grade. There's been no more exploration over there, yet it's identical signature and geochemically and geophysically to the area where we have 21 million ounces. I see a lot of upside coming here.
You're an exploration geologist, Andy, so I can tell you're very excited about that future possibility.
Absolutely. No, that's what I do. I've been, it's the best soil anomaly I've ever seen in my career, and I've always sort of been hesitant to really believe geophysics through my career. I like geology and geochemistry, good hard facts to point a drill at. But when I saw the results from the ZTEM correlation to the soil, I'm a believer now. It's spectacular targets and a lot of upside there.
The geophysics, the VTEM you mentioned, that's also showing more targets to the north, isn't it?
There's appears to be a northwesterly trend of the intrusive centers for these porphyry systems. Cangrejos, Gran Bestia, and then there's an area to the northwest called Pond Azucar. And the intrusive events that I mentioned before, Gran Bestia is downdropped relative to Cangrejos. Pond Azucar appears to be downdropped again, but we see an identical circular conductive feature, although it's more muted because it's a little bit deeper. We still see some copper and gold anomalies that surface in soils and in rocks. So that's an enormous target, never been drilled. Further north, the system gets downdropped again, and we actually start seeing some arsenic in the system because in Cangrejos and all of the deposit, the Cangrejos and Gran Bestia, no deleterious elements at all. It produces a very clean concentrate. To the north, we start seeing a little bit of arsenic, which indicates we're up into the epithermal realms. Again, evidence of downdropping of a system, but there's a 500-meter circular anomaly of gold, copper, arsenic, which is beautifully ringed by zinc, which is a classic porphyry zonation pattern ever been drilled. So there are other targets here, but just right around the deposits themselves, there's phenomenal upside.
You've just finished the resource drilling for the feasibility study. The aim there was to prove up the first 3 years of production to the proven reserve level. Where was that drilling?
Again, right in front of us and down lower, we drilled 91 holes to get the resource to a 50-meter center spacing of our drilling. It was about 8,000 meters we finished for the resource. All that work has been done. Most of the assays are now back in. As we've been doing the drilling, I always follow what the block model tells us from the previous block model, what it tells us we should find in the holes that we're drilling. And we're doing better than we expected.
Now let's go and see some of those rocks in the core shed.
Let's do it. Okay, with all the drilling over the years by Lumina, we soon outgrew the original core shack, and in 2020 we built this new one, and it's about reaching capacity as well. We now house 401 holes and 116,000 meters of core here on site. And behind me, you can see in these buckets, the crew is preparing metallurgical samples for shipment to our metallurgical lab based in Lima, Peru.
In the core shack, we met with senior geologist Guillermo Almandos, who showed us representative holes from the Cangrejos and Gran Bestia deposits and how the gold and copper minerals are present in the geology. Guillermo, thank you for bringing us here. We've got a hole laid out. What have we got here and where is it from?
Okay, this hole is located in the core part of the Cangrejos deposit. And now we can see the very nice hydrothermal breccia. If we see here, we can see the different class and the infill, the matrix is hydrothermal mineralization. And it's very interesting because the chalcopyrite is associated with the alteration mineral like actinolite and albite. Here in these deposits, in Cangrejos and Gran Bestia deposits, the main alteration event is chalcosodic, and this chalcosodic is associated at the main mineralization, which is copper sulfide with gold. For example, here we can see all of these core boxes. We have more than 2 grams of gold and more than 0.4% of copper, because it's probably the best part of the Cangrejos deposit.
And this is right in the center of the deposit.
Yes, you're right. And it's about 270 meters. And yes, it's really the core of the Cangrejos deposit.
We now have a hole here from Gran Bestia. What's different, what's similar compared with Cangrejos?
Yeah, this is the typical hole from the central part of the Gran Bestia. And here is very interesting because the lithology and the mineralization is similar to the Cangrejos. But here we can see a really good example of the contact between this is the Miocene intrusive, this is a porphyry, with some class of the country rock. But here we can see the mineralization in this porphyry. This porphyry is in contact with the breccia. Most of the mineralization in Gran Bestia and Cangrejo is located in the breccia, in hydrothermal and magmatic breccia. Here we can see some good example of the chalcopyrite in the matrix of the hydrothermal breccia. And now I want to show you, this is the one piece of core of the bottom of the Cangrejos deposit. We come back to Cangrejos deposit. And this breccia is very interesting because all of the matrix is composed by hydrothermal magnetite. This is very interesting because that means that this magnetite have chalcopyrite and bornite associated with a high grade, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 gram ton from this rock. And we think that in the bottom we continue with this kind of lithology, alteration and mineralization.
You've only hit this magnetite in what, 3 holes?
Yeah, we find in 3 or 4 deep holes in Cangrejos. But we are thinking that in the bottom of the system, increase the magnetite in the as a matrix of the breccia, and also increase the grade.
So that is potential future upside much later on in the mine life.
We are thinking in this. Yeah, you're right. We are thinking that in the future we can find more mineralization in the bottom associated with the magnetite in the breccia.
Cangrejos has a huge mineral endowment, and while the geology is an essential element for advancing a project into production, mines are not developed in isolation from the social and political environment. I spoke with Diego Benalcazar, Senior Vice President and Country Manager, to learn more about the political situation in Ecuador and the role mining has in its economy. Before we talk about the project, I'd like to talk a bit more about the mining boom that Ecuador is starting to enjoy. It's had a couple of mines come into production in 2019, Lundin Gold's Fruta del Norte and the Mirador copper mine, which is Ecocorrientes. Tell me a little bit more about how this boom is developing.
Yeah, I think we're living the best possible opportunities due to a backup from the different administrations to the stage in which we have more than a dozen players with projects being advanced. 3 projects are almost ready to be licensed for construction. 2 large projects that will come after that, which is, of course, our project, Cangrejos and Cascabel. 2 large projects in production. This is going to take the industry to a reality in terms of the supporting of the national economy.
What impact has that had on mining exports?
Very positive impact, especially when the price of petroleum is coming down. And alternative income for the government of Ecuador is the revenue coming from the mining sector. In the past decade, we were not even getting to $300 million of revenue per year. In the latest years until 2021, we have come to close to 2.8 billion, only with 2 big projects producing. And the government figures out that this could become maybe the 3rd most contributing industry in the country, to the level of possibly producing $9 billion per year in revenues with the new large projects that are in the pipeline.
Cangrejos could contribute a substantial portion towards that number. According to an April 2023 pre-feasibility study, Cangrejos will produce 371,000 ounces of gold and 41 million pounds of copper per year, or 469,000 ounces of gold equivalent, for 26 years at an all-in sustaining cost of $671 per ounce net of byproduct credits, with a revenue mix of 79% gold, 20% copper and 1% silver. The project would generate an after-tax net present value of $2.2 billion at a 5% discount rate and an internal rate of return of 17.2%, following a $925 million initial capital cost, using $1,650 per ounce gold and $3.75 per pound copper prices. The sub-$1 billion capex reflects some of the many infrastructure advantages that Cangrejos has, which means Lumina does not have to invest in infrastructure that project developers elsewhere have to. And we travelled in this morning on the Pan American Highway. It's a very good quality road. It comes pretty much to the door of the project. So for bringing in supplies, taking out the concentrate, you're pretty much all set.
Well, the advantage there, you have a primary road, which is a concrete road, 4-lane, which is designed for 33 toners at least. And beyond that, when you start coming towards the project, you have secondary paved roads. But we're still thinking that we may build a short stretch of a road dedicated only for the project. So we don't go through town, we don't go through the small villages. And that is being analyzed. It's going to be a tremendous advantage because we can go straight to the bypass that will drive the concentrate to the port in about 45 minutes.
the infrastructure advantages that Cangrejos has also includes power. Tell me about the power.
Well, first of all, Ecuador supplies power at the cheapest price in probably also South America. We're talking about 0.6 cents per kilowatt hour. It's not going to be sustainable. Maybe it will come to 0.9. In comparison to Peru and Colombia, they are charging 20 cents. But in any case, here we have two possibilities. One is to get connected to the national grid, which brings 100% of that energy comes from hydroelectric, which is clean energy.
Low carbon emissions.
Totally low carbon emissions. And then there's a chance, according to the new law, to have a dedicated generation anywhere in the country that gets connected to the national grid, and you pay toll. You will bring that energy from a substation that we need to build and bring it to the plant. So we are analyzing the possibility of having both choices, connected to the energy that the state will sell, and to have a long-term relationship with a generator.
Financing a $900 million capex project can be quite a challenge, but the company's already taken some big steps there. You've already negotiated and obtained a $300 million streaming finance from Wheaton Precious Metals. That's on 6.6% of the gold production. Plus, because of the copper, you're probably going to be able to negotiate some kind of offtake financing terms. And there's some silver as well. So it seems you've got a lot of options and as well as debt to finance the project.
The beauty of it is not going to the markets and get diluted, right? Terrible market times, the commodity prices are not bad, but not stable. For us, it's a tremendous opportunity to finish the feasibility studies with that resource, and we'll have enough capital for the part of the construction of the first phase, which is $925 million. So from the $300 million that we have been provided, I think we have a good start to find secondary financing.
Mining projects in Latin America have to have strong regional development aspects. To find out more about the company's relations with the government and local communities and how it is seeking to improve the lives of local inhabitants, we spoke with Andrea Salvador, who heads the company's corporate affairs department in Ecuador. Andrea, Ecuador has had a succession of pro-business governments. How useful is that for you, and how do you engage with the different levels of government?
We have a very good level of engagement and support from the national government, especially from the current national government, which is pro-business. Actually, the past administration was also pro-business as well. So this really facilitates the mining sector to move forward and advance the different projects as Cangrejos. We also have a very good support, not only at the national level, but we also have a very good engagement at the provincial level and the local government level. We work quite a lot in different initiatives, social, infrastructure-wise, and many other different initiatives with the local government levels and the provincial government to move forward not only the Cangrejos project, but also the social aspects and the social projects and the social initiatives that we work together with. Our corporate social responsibility agenda is very strong at the community level. Also, we work quite closely with the local government levels in order to promote different initiatives. We work with different members of the community, so with different priority groups. Among those, we have children, we have young people. One of our stellar projects within the economic diversification angle has been, for example, one called Llovizna Creativa, which is trying to promote women entrepreneurship and also different local providers. So we try to promote the medium and scale companies at the local level. Also within the education and the training aspect, we work quite a lot with different entities, for example with the Universidad Técnica Particular de Loja, to do technical training and to prepare the future. We're trying to to prepare the future professionals that are gonna be needed for the construction and the operation phase of the project. And also within the health and well-being aspect, we have our greenhouses. We have 5 greenhouses within the different communities, which are very interesting because we not only educate the young people and children, but also we're educating through that initiative. We're educating their families, the adults, the professors, and many different actors within the communities.
Whilst visiting Cangrejos, we saw firsthand a number of the social initiatives Lumina has, including its greenhouse project, where sustainability coordinator Santiago Bustamante shows us how it helps improve local nutrition and bring the community together.
This is the little one. This is the newest one. And it's working pretty nice. We have the radish here. Check the size of the radishes. And they really like it. And they have chicken like their own. You know, they are the owners of their food, which is the greatest part of it, you know. They really love it and they are really into it. And they are planting the new plants. This is the new beds here. And it's really, because it's so warm, it's really quick.
These greenhouses are really working.
Oh yeah, it's really hot house. It started sweating.
Yeah.
But that's why it's really so quick to being part of this teaching, part of this healthy new era for these kids. And as I tell you, they love it. So we're happy for that. And it's really good for the community, the social part of our project.
The company's efforts to grow things extends beyond providing a local food source. Its environmental commitment and objectives include a substantial reforestation program and other aspects to protect flora, fauna, and water resources. We spoke with Francisco Ruiz, Head of Health, Security, Environment and Community Relations, to find out the extent of these. Francisco, what are some of the environmental highlights of the project?
We're seeing that we're paying a lot of attention to water monitoring, also soil sampling and monitoring, and biotic monitoring in terms of mammals, birds, and some reptiles as well.
The company's done quite a lot of reforestation. What is the plan behind the reforestation?
We have more than 18 kilometers of axis that we intervene since we started the exploration plan. 150 paths that were cleared and drilled. As we have the statistics of what we had previously, so we collect information about how many trees, what species, let's say in terms of flora and fauna, what type of species we found previously to intervene in those areas. We're putting back a lot of effort in replanting those species that we identified previously. And also in terms of, for example, birds monitoring. We are maintaining logs of what we saw in these past years and also comparing what we have right now in the field.
While there is still a lot of exploration potential to target, Lumina's work will focus now on the various elements required to produce a feasibility study, which has begun and is targeted for completion in 2025. This will include an updated resource estimate, crushing and grinding test work, rock slope engineering, a mine plan, metallurgical testing, plant site layout, engineering design, and cost, capital and operating cost estimates and permitting. These will all be included in an NI 43101 compliant feasibility study due for publication in 2025, before Lumina completes permitting and arranges finance to embark on the next chapter for Cangrejos. As the clouds roll in behind us here, our time on site here at Cangrejos is at an end. We hope you find this video useful and informative. Thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned and join us for our next site visit.